He abandoned his pregnant wife with twins in labor. Billionaire stranger storms in. She's mine now. She was 8 centimeters dilated when the text arrived. Deal closed in Dubai. Don't wait up. P.S. Lawyer will contact you about the divorce. But what happened next in that maternity ward would become the most viewed story on social media for weeks. The automatic doors of Memorial Medical Center slammed against the walls as Sophia Chen stumbled through, her designer maternity dress soaked with amniotic fluid and tears. At 34 weeks pregnant with twins, every step felt like her body was splitting apart. The diamond bracelet on her wrist, a push present from the husband who should have been catching these babies, now felt like shackles. "Help me," she whispered to the triage nurse, doubling over as another contraction ripped through her small frame. "My babies. They're coming now." The nurse's training kicked in immediately when she saw the blood pooling at Sophia's feet. This wasn't false labor. This was life or death. Would you forgive a man who abandoned you like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. 6 hours earlier, Sophia had called Marcus from their penthouse in Manhattan's Upper East Side, panic rising in her voice as contractions started coming every 3 minutes. The twins weren't due for another 6 weeks, but her body had other plans. "Marcus, please, I need you here. Something's wrong." His response would haunt her forever. "Sophia, I'm closing the biggest deal of my career. $500 million in foreign investments. Handle whatever needs handling. That's what I pay staff for." Staff? She was his wife of 3 years, carrying his children. "But the babies will be fine. Women have been having babies for thousands of years. Figure it out." The line went dead. 2 hours later, as Sophia writhed alone in their marble bathroom, her phone buzzed with that final text. The text that changed everything. But to understand how it all fell apart, we need to go back 8 months earlier, when Sophia Chen thought she had everything a woman could want. 8 months ago, Sophia's life looked like something from a magazine. Her interior design firm, Lux Living, had just landed a $2.8 million contract redesigning Manhattan's most exclusive private members club. She drove a white Tesla Model S, lived in a 4,000-square-foot penthouse overlooking Central Park, and was married to Marcus Chen, the fintech industry's golden boy who'd sold his first startup at 26 for $180 million. Their love story had been Instagram perfect. They'd met at a charity auction where Sophia was showcasing her designs for a children's hospital wing. Marcus had pursued her relentlessly. Private jets to Paris, surprise shopping sprees on Rodeo Drive, a proposal at the Four Seasons Maui with a ring worth more than most people's cars. Every woman in Manhattan wanted her life. The pregnancy test changed everything in exactly 97 seconds. Sophia had stared at those 2 pink lines in their marble bathroom, her hands shaking with unexpected joy. At 29, after building her design empire from nothing, she hadn't planned on children yet. But this surprise felt like destiny whispering, "Your time is now." She'd actually laughed out loud, imagining Marcus's face when she told him. She could already picture him as a father, intense, driven, but melting into complete softness around his children. The 10-week ultrasound revealed twins, 2 perfect little heartbeats flickering on the screen like stars being born. Sophia had immediately started sobbing, happy tears, overwhelmed tears, grateful tears. The technician had handed her tissues with a knowing smile. She'd planned the perfect reveal. Marcus's favorite restaurant, Labor-Billionaire. Champagne for him, sparkling cider for her. The ultrasound photos in a custom gift box engraved with Baby A and Baby B arriving February 2025. But Marcus's reaction shattered her fairy tale in seconds. His face went from confused to irritated to downright angry as he stared at the ultrasound images. "This wasn't the plan, Sophia. You know I'm in the middle of the Dubai expansion. I need focus, not complications." Complications? She'd felt her heart physically crack. "Marcus, these are our children." "Your children," he corrected coldly. "You're the one who forgot to take your pills." She hadn't forgotten anything. They'd been trying for 4 months after he'd suggested starting a family. But suddenly, Marcus was rewriting history, making her the villain in his narrative. The emotional abandonment started immediately. Late nights at the office became week-long business trips. Weekend plans got canceled for emergency meetings. When she'd tried showing him the 20-week anatomy scan, 2 perfect baby girls, he'd barely glanced up from his laptop. Handle whatever needs handling with the pregnancy stuff. I'm building an empire here. But the financial abuse was calculated warfare. First, he'd changed passwords on their joint accounts for security reasons. Then her credit cards started getting declined. He'd lowered her limits to almost nothing without telling her. When she'd confronted him at his office, surrounded by his young male employees who looked uncomfortable witnessing their boss humiliate his pregnant wife, he'd actually laughed. You wanted this pregnancy, Sophia. You figure out how to pay for it. My money goes toward investments that actually matter. She'd been 7 months pregnant when she discovered the truth about his business trips. His assistant, barely 24, fresh out of NYU, had accidentally sent an email to the wrong address. Hotel reservations in Dubai, the presidential suite, charges for couples massages, romantic dinners, matching Cartier jewelry. Sophia had confronted him that night, 8 months pregnant and swollen with his daughters, and he hadn't even denied it. Natasha understands my vision. She doesn't burden me with emotional needs and baby drama. Baby drama? I'm your wife. These are your daughters. Not for much longer, he'd said, walking out with his suitcase already packed. My lawyer will handle the details. That was 72 hours ago. Now, as the medical team rushed her into surgery, Sophia realized the full scope of his betrayal. He'd been planning this for months, moving assets, hiding money, preparing to leave her with nothing while she was most vulnerable. The medical team rushed her toward the delivery room at Memorial, but Sophia's nightmare was just beginning. As they transferred her to the bed, her phone exploded with notifications. Her bank cards declined. Her insurance canceled. The joint account she'd trusted Marcus to manage completely emptied. He hadn't just abandoned her. He'd systematically destroyed her financial life while she carried his children. Blood pressure's spiking, someone shouted. 190 over 130. Sophia's vision blurred as her body convulsed. Preeclampsia had turned into HELLP syndrome, her liver failing, platelets crashing, kidneys shutting down. We need to get these babies out now, Dr. Rachel Martinez barked. She's going into organ failure. As they prepped her for emergency surgery, Sophia's phone lit up one final time. The message was visible to the entire medical team. Divorce papers filed. Penthouse is mine. Prenup protects my assets. You have 48 hours to remove your belongings. Already married Natasha in Dubai. Don't contact me again. Changed my number. The nurse holding Sophia's phone actually gasped. He sent this while she's dying. Sophia heard it through the fading consciousness, tears streaming down her face as anesthesia pulled her under. Completely alone. No one to call if she didn't make it. No one to hold her babies if she died on this table. But she wasn't as alone as she thought. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in karma, because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. 3 floors up, 38-year-old Damian Cross stood in his sister's office, staring at quarterly reports that suddenly seemed meaningless. As chief of pediatric surgery, Dr. Elena Cross had called her billionaire brother about their hospital's funding crisis, but Damian barely heard her words. His mind was elsewhere, on the empire he'd built from nothing after his own father had abandoned their family when Damian was 12. Dynacorp Industries now spanned 6 countries, employed 40,000 people, and had made him one of the youngest billionaires in New York. Forbes had just named him Philanthropist of the Year for his foundation's work with abandoned families. Yet tonight, success felt hollow. Emergency and maternity, Elena's pager screamed. All hands to OR3, mother in critical condition. Through the observation window, Damian watched the chaos below. A young woman, alone and terrified, being rushed into surgery. No family in the waiting room, no one holding her hand, no one at all. The scene hit him like a physical blow. Suddenly, he was 12 again, watching his pregnant mother collapse in their kitchen while his father was working late with his secretary. The memory of finding his mother unconscious, blood everywhere, trying to call 911 with shaking hands, it all came flooding back. His mother had nearly died that night. The medical bills had destroyed them. They'd lost everything while his father lived in luxury with his new family, protected by expensive lawyers and hidden assets. Damien had spent 26 years turning that pain into purpose. His foundation had helped thousands of abandoned mothers, but he'd never been there at the actual moment of abandonment, never been able to intervene when it mattered most, until now. "Where's her husband?" Damien asked, his voice deadly quiet. Elena checked her tablet, her expression hardening. According to the intake forms, he texted her divorce papers while she was in active labor. He's in Dubai closing some business deal. Something inside Damien snapped. The coffee cup in his hand cracked under his grip. "I'm going down there." "Damien, you can't just watch me." The surgery lasted 52 minutes that felt like 52 hours. Baby A came first, 4 pounds 2 ounces, screaming bloody murder. The sound of that tiny cry filled the OR with relief. They'd later name her Aurora, but right now she was just alive, pink, and furious about being evicted from her warm home. Baby B wasn't as fortunate. 3 pounds 14 ounces, blue-tinged and silent. The resuscitation team descended immediately, working with practiced precision while surgeons fought to stop Sophia's hemorrhaging. From the observation deck, Damien made phone calls that would shake the business world. First, his personal attorney. "Michael, I need you at Memorial Medical Center. Now bring the entire family law team and the forensic accountants." Second, his financial advisor. "Liquidate whatever positions you need. I want unlimited liquid capital available immediately." Third, New York's most exclusive private nursing service. "Your best neonatal team. Cost is completely irrelevant. I want 24/7 coverage starting now." Fourth, his security team. "Run a complete background check on Marcus Chen. I want everything: financial records, travel history, communications, everything." Elena grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" "What someone should have done for our mother," he replied, never taking his eyes off Sophia's still form on the table. The smaller twin finally cried. Weak, but there. Both babies were rushed to the NICU while surgeons worked to save their mother. Sophia had lost almost half her blood volume. Her organs were shutting down one by one. As they wheeled her into recovery, Damien made the decision that would define the rest of his life. He would stay. When Sophia woke up 18 hours later, she expected to see empty chairs and sterile hospital walls. Instead, she saw him. Impossibly tall, impeccably dressed even at 3 a.m., with dark eyes that held something she couldn't quite identify. Kindness, understanding, pain that matched her own. "Your daughters are fighters," Damien said softly, as if they'd known each other for years instead of hours. 4 pounds 2 ounces and 3 pounds 14 ounces. They're in the NICU, but they're breathing completely on their own now. Sophia blinked through the pain medication fog, trying to process. Nothing made sense. Who are you?" "Someone who understands what it feels like to be abandoned when you need help most," Damien replied simply. "And someone who believes no woman should go through what you're going through alone." "Marcus. Where's Marcus?" "Still in Dubai," Damien said gently, "with his new wife. But that's not important right now. What's important is that your daughters need you strong, and you need support to heal." Over the next week, Damien became a constant Sophia couldn't understand but desperately needed. He never overstepped, never presumed, but he was simply there, every single moment that mattered. When she was too weak to hold the breast pump at 2 a.m., exhausted and sobbing from pain and hormones, he held it steady without a word of judgment. When the NICU chairs destroyed her C-section incision, orthopedic cushions appeared within an hour. When hospital food made her nauseous, homemade soup arrived from his private chef. Nothing fancy, just chicken and rice that she could actually stomach. He learned the nurses' names within 2 days, memorized both babies' feeding schedules, somehow materialized with her favorite coffee every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, vanilla latte with oat milk, discovered through careful observation of her empty cups. He sang to the twins during blood draws, off-key renditions of Beatles songs that somehow calmed their cries. He celebrated every ounce gained like stock market victories, keeping detailed charts of their progress that impressed even the neonatal specialists. When the smaller twin, later named Isabella, had a Brady episode at 2:47 a.m., he was there before Sophia even called, having somehow sensed she needed him. "You don't sleep anymore, do you?" Sophia asked one night, finding him reading medical journals about premature infant development. "Sleep is overrated when there are more important things to focus on," he replied, but she saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the same bone-deep tiredness she carried. They were both running on love and determination, sustained by something neither quite understood yet. The thing was, Damien never pushed for more, never suggested anything beyond friendship, never made her feel like she owed him anything, but something was shifting between them with each passing day, in the way their hands would brush when passing bottles, how they developed a wordless communication over the babies' heads, the way her heart rate actually spiked when he walked in each morning. "Why?" Sophia finally asked on day 5, watching him cradle Isabella while she fed Aurora. These tiny humans, barely the size of dolls, had already completely stolen her heart. Damien's voice carried decades of buried pain. "My father left my pregnant mother for his secretary when I was 12. She nearly died having my sister alone. I was too young to help then, too powerless to change anything. I watched her almost bleed out on our kitchen floor while I tried to call 911 with shaking hands." He adjusted Isabella gently, the 3-pound baby looking impossibly tiny in his large hands. "She survived, barely, but she was never the same. The medical bills destroyed us. We lost everything while my father lived in a penthouse with his new family, protected by expensive lawyers and hidden assets." Sophia studied him, really studied him. She'd Googled him extensively, of course. Damien Cross, tech mogul, real estate empire, aerospace investments, charitable foundation that had donated hundreds of millions. Notably, single despite being New York's most eligible bachelor for 6 consecutive years. "I swore if I ever had the power to prevent another woman from suffering that way, I would use every resource at my disposal," he continued. "I've helped thousands through my foundation, but I've never been here at the actual moment when it mattered most." "I don't need charity," Sophia whispered, though they both knew her financial situation was devastating. "It's not charity," Damien replied, his eyes meeting hers directly. "It's justice. And maybe," he paused, weighing his words carefully, "maybe it's something more." The NICU monitors beeped steadily around them. Oxygen saturation, heart rates, breathing patterns. A mechanical symphony that had somehow become the soundtrack to something unexpected growing between them. Day 7 changed everything when the story exploded across social media. Someone had leaked everything. Screenshots of Marcus's cruel texts, photos of him celebrating his Dubai deal while Sophia fought for her life in surgery, even security footage of her arriving at the hospital alone and hemorrhaging. The headline that broke the internet: "Tech CEO abandons pregnant wife during twin birth emergency, empties all accounts while she nearly dies." By 10 a.m., word abandoned mother was trending worldwide. By noon, Marcus's investors were calling emergency board meetings. His company's stock price plummeted 40% in 6 hours. Social media exploded with fury, unlike anything seen since the last major corporate scandal. Marcus's Dubai office was swarmed by international media. His new wife, Natasha, was photographed crying as she left their hotel, wedding ring already removed. He stormed into the NICU at 2:15 p.m., Armani suit wrinkled from his rushed flight, face twisted with absolute rage. Natasha trailed behind, looking uncomfortable in her too-tight dress and already regretting her life choices. "What the hell have you done to destroy my reputation?" he snarled at Sophia, who was doing skin-to-skin contact with Isabella, the tiny baby's monitors still attached to her translucent chest. Before Sophia could respond, Damien stepped between them, 6 feet 3 inches of controlled fury in a perfectly tailored Tom Ford suit. "Mr. Chen," Damien's voice was dangerously calm, the tone of a man accustomed to commanding boardrooms full of powerful people. "You were celebrating champagne toasts in Dubai while your daughters were dying, while their mother coded on an operating table, and your primary concern is reputation management?" Marcus's face went red with indignation. "Who the hell are you? This is none of your damn business, and I don't appreciate some stranger interfering in my family matters." "I'm the man who was here," Damien replied with devastating simplicity. "Holding her hand during emergency surgery, watching your daughters take their first breaths, sitting vigil while they learn to survive outside the womb. Where exactly were you?" "Those are my children." Marcus stepped forward aggressively. "Children you called complications," Sophia's voice cut through, stronger than she'd felt in months. She held Isabella tighter, the 2-pound baby fitting in one palm. "Children whose mother you left with no money, no insurance, no home, no support." Marcus lunged forward, but hospital security, who'd been standing nearby since Damien had discreetly requested them, immediately intervened. "You can't keep me from them," Marcus shouted. "I have legal rights." "Rights?" A woman's voice interrupted coldly. Marcus turned to find a wall of expensive suits filling the NICU entrance. Damien's legal team had arrived, the most feared family law attorneys in New York. The lead attorney, a shark in Chanel who'd never lost a custody case, smiled without warmth. "Mr. Chen, we have documented evidence of financial abuse, abandonment during medical emergency, emotional cruelty, and federal fraud charges pending." She pulled out an iPad, scrolling through devastating evidence. 47 text messages explicitly rejecting these children. Bank transfers made while your wife was hemorrhaging in surgery. Insurance cancellation during high-risk pregnancy. The district attorney is very interested in your 12 offshore accounts in the Caymans. Marcus's face went white. "You can't prove any financial wrongdoing. Dubai International Airport security footage of you celebrating with champagne while your wife was coding. Posted on your own social media accounts. Time-stamped during her emergency surgery. Federal wire fraud for moving marital assets offshore during pregnancy." Damien pulled out his phone, showing Marcus the screen. "Your board just voted unanimously. You're out as CEO effective immediately. Your investors are filing suit for misrepresentation of character. And here's the beautiful part. Your prenup becomes null and void due to proven financial abuse." Marcus made one final desperate play that would backfire spectacularly. "You think this guy actually gives a damn about you?" He spat at Sophia. "He's using you for publicity. When the cameras stop rolling and the story gets old, he'll disappear too. That's what rich men do." Sophia stood slowly, passing Isabella to the NICU nurse, and for the first time in months, she felt truly powerful. "The difference between you and him," she said quietly, her voice carrying throughout the NICU, "is that he showed up when there was nothing to gain, when there were no cameras, no story, no publicity. He showed up when I was dying and alone, when there was only responsibility and heartbreak and no guarantee of anything good." Security escorted Marcus out, his new wife already on her phone with divorce attorneys, but the damage to his life was just beginning. The custody hearing 3 weeks later was swift and brutal. Judge Patricia Williams, known throughout New York family court for her no-nonsense approach to deadbeat parents, reviewed the evidence with barely concealed disgust. "Mr. Chen," her voice could have frozen the Hudson River, "you abandoned your wife during a medical emergency that nearly killed her and your daughters. You left her destitute, uninsured, and alone while celebrating business deals in another country. You showed zero interest in these children until public humiliation made it advantageous to pretend otherwise." Marcus's high-priced attorney tried arguing temporary insanity, claiming the pressure of business deals had affected his judgment that everyone deserves second chances in life. "Second chances are for people who tried the first time," Judge Williams cut him off sharply. "Mr. Chen didn't try. He fled to Dubai to marry his mistress while his children fought for their lives in an incubator." The ruling was devastating and complete. Full custody to Sophia. Supervised visitation for Marcus, only if requested by the mother. Child support set at 45% of his verified income, including all hidden offshore assets. Immediate financial restitution for medical bills and emotional damages. And then the final, crushing blow. The option for voluntary termination of parental rights, which would release him from all support obligations in exchange for complete legal severance from the children. Marcus signed the papers that afternoon, choosing financial freedom over fatherhood. 3 months later, in the sunlit nursery of Damien's Upper East Side penthouse, Sophia watched Aurora and Isabella sleeping in their custom cribs, both now healthy, 6-pound babies who'd defied every premature birth statistic. The room was everything she'd dreamed of during those terrifying NICU nights. Soft pastels, hand-painted murals, toys that cost more than most people's cars. But the real magic was simpler. The sound of Damien singing off-key lullabies, the sight of him changing diapers with the same focused intensity he brought to billion-dollar mergers. "They're going to sleep for exactly 47 minutes, Damien said, emerging from the nursery with that confident smile that had become her favorite sight in the world. "I've calculated their patterns." "You've calculated everything," Sophia laughed, settling into his arms on the couch that overlooked Central Park, "including how to make me fall in love with you." "That wasn't calculated," he replied seriously, his fingers threading through her hair. "That was just inevitable." The proposal came 2 weeks later, not in some elaborate restaurant or exotic location, but at 3 a.m. during a feeding session. Both babies were fussy, Sophia was exhausted, and Damien was somehow managing to hold both girls while heating bottles. "Marry me," he said suddenly, as if the words had been building pressure for weeks. "What?" Sophia nearly dropped Aurora's bottle. "Not because you need me to take care of you. You're the strongest woman I've ever met. Not because the girls need a father figure, they need you most of all. But because I can't imagine my life without this chaos, without these midnight feedings, without watching you be the most incredible mother I've ever seen." He shifted both babies to one arm with practiced ease, pulling out a ring box with his free hand. "Because I want to wake up every morning knowing that this family is mine, officially and forever." The ring was perfect. Not the massive statement piece Marcus had chosen to show off his wealth, but something elegant and timeless that spoke to who she actually was. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, absolutely yes." Both babies chose that moment to start crying, as if they'd been waiting for this exact moment to voice their approval. The wedding was perfect in its simplicity. Just them, the twins, Elena as witness, and a judge in chambers at City Hall. No media, no elaborate production, no guest list politics. Just promises made while holding their daughters, Damien sliding the ring onto Sophia's finger while Aurora tried to eat his boutonniere. But the real moment, the one that mattered most, had happened the week before. The adoption finalization. Damien legally becoming what he'd already been for months. Daddy. The judge had actually gotten emotional, watching this billionaire who could have anyone, choosing a woman with baggage and 2 babies who weren't biologically his. "You know," Elena said after the ceremony, bouncing Aurora while Isabella napped in Damien's arms, "I've never seen my brother this happy. Not when he made his first billion, not when he got the Forbes cover, not when he acquired his dream company. This," she gestured to Damien, now covered in baby drool and looking absolutely content. "This is his true success." 1 year later, the Cross Estate Gardens in the Hamptons sparkled with thousands of fairy lights strung between oak trees for Aurora and Isabella's first birthday party. The celebration was intentionally intimate, just the NICU nurses who'd become family, Dr. Martinez, Elena and her family, and the few friends who'd supported Sophia through her darkest days. "Dada! Dada!" Both twins squealed in perfect unison as Damien approached with their matching smash cakes, pink frosting with edible glitter because his daughters deserved pure magic. That word still made him emotional. Not gentle tears, but the deep, overwhelming gratitude of a man who'd found his true purpose in life. Aurora, bold and determined, immediately grabbed handfuls of cake and smeared it everywhere with scientific precision. Isabella, quieter but equally focused, studied her cake thoughtfully before taking one careful, tiny bite. "Can you believe they're walking already?" Sophia laughed, watching the girls toddle around in matching birthday tutus. "Aurora took 4 steps yesterday, and Isabella immediately had to prove she could take 5. "Can you believe you're pregnant again?" Dr. Martinez replied with a knowing smile, nodding at Sophia's hand that kept drifting to her still flat stomach. The third baby had been a complete surprise, 8 weeks along and due in spring. Damien's reaction had been pure joy mixed with slight panic about having 3 children under 2 years old. "Another one to love," he'd said simply, already mentally redesigning the nursery for maximum efficiency. As the party wound down and both girls napped in their stroller, covered in frosting and exhausted from their first birthday excitement, Sophia found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. 18 months ago, she'd been dying alone on an operating table, abandoned and betrayed by the man who was supposed to love her most. Now she was surrounded by family, chosen not by blood or obligation, but by love, strong enough to withstand every test. 5 years later, watching from the audience at Lincoln Elementary's kindergarten graduation, Damien Cross understood that true wealth had nothing to do with the numbers in his bank accounts. Aurora and Isabella Cross, now confident 5-year-olds in tiny caps and gowns, searched the crowd until they spotted their family in the second row. "Mommy! Daddy!" Aurora shouted, completely ignoring graduation protocol while waving wildly. Isabella, more reserved but equally excited, gave them a formal little wave that made the entire family laugh. Damien sat with his camera ready, Sophia beside him glowing with her second pregnancy, and their son Michael, now 3, bouncing excitedly between them. "My daddy's the best," Isabella announced to her teacher, loud enough for everyone to hear. "He reads us stories every night and makes pancakes that look like butterflies." Aurora, never to be outdone, added, "And he's teaching us about business. We're going to have our own company someday." Damien Cross, one of the most powerful men in New York, was on his feet cheering louder than anyone when they called each girl's name, recording every second, tears streaming down his face without shame. This man who commanded boardrooms and controlled billions was completely undone by 2 5-year-olds in graduation caps. In the very back corner of the auditorium, almost invisible in the shadows, stood Marcus Chen. His empire had crumbled completely after the scandal. The tech company had declared bankruptcy within 6 months. His young wife had left him, taking what little remained. The investors he'd betrayed had systematically blacklisted him from every opportunity in the industry. He'd returned to New York 8 months ago, broken and humiliated, working freelance coding jobs just to survive in a studio apartment in Queens. Some masochistic impulse had driven him here today, to witness what he'd thrown away in pursuit of business deals that ultimately meant nothing. The twins were radiant, confident, secure, everything children should be when they know they're unconditionally loved. They had no idea he existed, would never know that another man's DNA had created them, because biology meant nothing compared to the daily choice to show up, to love, to protect. Marcus watched the life he could have had if he'd chosen differently. These brilliant, beautiful girls who called another man daddy with such pure, uncomplicated love that it physically hurt to witness. Some titles once abandoned can never be reclaimed. Some choices, once made, echo through eternity. As the Cross family headed toward the exit, Damien carrying both graduates, Sophia's hand on her pregnant belly, Michael skipping ahead with excitement about the celebration dinner, they passed right by Marcus without seeing him. Because to them, he didn't exist. He was just another stranger in the crowd, irrelevant to their story of love-conquering abandonment. The best fathers aren't always biological. They're the ones who choose to stay when staying is hard, who choose to fight when fighting seems impossible, who choose to love without conditions or guarantees. The best families aren't always born from blood. They're forged in moments of crisis when someone decides to be the hero instead of walking away. They're built on foundations of choice, not chance. What would you have done in Sophia's situation? Would you have trusted a stranger's kindness, or would fear have kept you isolated? What about Damien? Was his intervention heroic or overstepping boundaries? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you believe in second chances and the power of chosen family. Subscribe for more incredible stories of love-conquering betrayal, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Sometimes when one man walks away from his responsibilities, another man steps up to claim them as privileges. Sometimes karma doesn't just balance the scales, It completely rewrites the story with a better ending than anyone could have imagined. The abandoned become the chosen, the broken become the blessed, and sometimes, just sometimes, the stranger who shows up in your darkest hour becomes the hero who was always meant to be there, waiting for the right moment to change everything. Because the greatest love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other. They're about broken people choosing to heal together, creating something beautiful from the ashes of what was destroyed.